New Year, Chairman. Happy New Year, sir. I'm well, you? I'm good. Good. Did you go to South Texas any during the break? Oh, good. Hoping my mom will. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so like that. Almost does. No, so it's around.
You're looking very Sidney Poitier-ish.
All right, good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trubman, has anyone signed up for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. Les Trubman, General Counsel. We have one person who would like to offer comments when we arrive at item 13.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
How are we today?
Very well. Happy New Year.
Well, Happy New Year to you too. Thank you. Let's see, on agenda item 3, we have no cases to reconsider. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's move to tax liability cases under agenda item 4. I believe we have no tax cases on docket 52, no tax cases on docket 1, and 3 tax cases on docket 2.
Yes, sir, that's correct. First case is TD-20-062-0320. Commissioner Demerson,
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez,
I agree with staff's recommendation.
and Mr. Chairman.
Agree with staff recommendation.
Second case is TD-20-075-0520. Commissioner Demerson,
Agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman.
Disagree with staff recommendation.
Yes, sir. Third and final case is TD-21-016-0621. Commissioner Demerson,
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman.
Agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you very much.
All right, no fair housing cases under agenda item 5.
Correct, none.
We'll move to agenda item 6, no wage claim cases on docket 52, no wage claim cases on docket 1, 1 wage claim case on docket 2.
Yes, sir. Speaking of pulled cases, there's one pulled case on docket 2. It's case number 21-051224-1. Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The evidence shows the claimant was paid $100 per day during the period of the claim. The claimant testified to working 9 hours a day for 6 weeks. The employer's original response to the claim admitted that he was scheduled for 9-hour shifts before they changed their position at the hearing. The employer failed to maintain complete pay records or track the claimant's hours. As the employer failed to maintain records, the claimant should be entitled to his full shift, less than his 30-minute lunch break. Although the employer has testified the claimant took other 15-minute breaks, breaks of such duration are to be paid under FLSA. The claimant was working 8.5 hours a day or 51 hours a week, for which he was paid $100 per day or $11.76 per hour. The claimant was paid his regular rate for all hours worked. The claimant is entitled to overtime for the additional 11 hours per week he worked. The additional halftime pay for those hours equals $64.60 per week. The claimant worked 25 weeks during the claim period for which he is entitled to $1,617 in unpaid overtime. Reverse EAT, $1,617 wages owed.
Chair, I'm going to ask for this case to be resubmitted on a further docket so that we can further study it.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman.
Affirm the WCAT wage claim dismissed, no wages owed.
Okay, we have not received a majority vote as Commissioner Alvarez voted to reverse. Commissioner Demerson wants to resubmit and you voted to affirm.
Chair, I'm going to agree with the chairman on this particular.
All right,
Okay.
majority vote is to affirm wage claim dismissed.
Okay.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. So that was the last pulled case for those 3 dockets. You should have received wage claim short form dissent lists for docket 52, docket 1, and docket 2.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on dockets 52, 1, and 2.
I second the motion except for those cases of which I'm dissenting as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for 52, 51, and 52.
And I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for dockets 52, 1, and 2.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. We will now move to agenda item 7 in consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 52. Please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you.
Case number 2793459, Commissioner Alvarez.
The claimant was unable to participate in the hearing as her cell phone service has been disconnected because she could not afford her payments. She only became aware of this issue on the morning of the hearing and she was unable to obtain access to another phone in time for the hearing. By the time that she was able to restore her cell phone service, it was already too late to participate. Because the claimant made a good faith effort to participate in the hearing, but was prevented from doing so due to the economic hardship rather than willful neglect, the claimant established good cause for her non-appearance, good cause, and resubmit for merits.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision regarding good cause. Although the claimant became aware of the appeal tribunal hearing on the Friday before her hearing date, she waited until the Sunday before her hearing to check her mail. Though the claimant alluded to financial problems and the inability to pay her cell phone bill as reasons for being late to the AT1 hearing, this argument is unpersuasive. The claimant, after she became aware of the AT1 hearing, had sufficient time to rectify any issues with her cell phone. Moreover, the claimant failed to find alternative methods to call in or exhaust the resources available to her through the Texas Workforce Commission workforce solution locations that could have assisted her in attending the hearing. As such, the claimant did not have good cause for her non-appearance at the AT1 hearing. Concerning the job separation, the claimant quit when she had continued work available with the employer. As such, the claimant separation constituted voluntary quit without good cause connected with the work. Hence, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for her non-appearance, voluntary leaving, or at the chargeback ruling.
Affirm the AT. Claimant did not establish good cause for AT1 voluntary leaving, void chargeback.
Short form of dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 2817-896, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant was aware that completion of the employer's training was a requisite to continued employment. Despite the employer sending the claimant multiple emails to remind her that she needed to complete the training, one of which was sent almost a month before the completion deadline, the claimant failed to complete the training by the employer's deadline. The employer stated that the claimant had a week beyond the winter storm to complete the training, and that it had provided the claimant with an extension to complete the training. Since the claimant did not satisfy a condition of continued employment of which she should have been aware, her actions constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, misconduct, reimburse an employer not billed.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant was discharged because she did not complete the assigned training by a deadline. The claimant was unable to complete the training on time because of her personal illness, the major snowstorm in February of 2020, and technical problems. The employer has offered no evidence to dispute the claimant's testimony. The claimant's inability to complete the training according to the deadline set by the employer was due to the factors beyond her control. She was therefore not discharged due to misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Affirm the AT. Misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 2858862, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The employer was the only party to provide testimony at the hearing. This testimony, which is corroborated by documentary evidence, established that the claimant resigned to move to San Antonio and attend school. Because this is a personal reason for quitting, the claimant quit without good cause connected with the work. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not bill, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant had to resign from her job when the employer changed her work schedule due to staffing shortages, and the claimant therefore had difficulty obtaining childcare. Commission precedent holds that an employee whose work schedule is changed and therefore quits due to family responsibilities has good cause connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving, bill reimbursing employer.
Reverse the AT. Voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2879265, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant essentially stated that if he had to choose why he resigned, he would say it was due to the pandemic. Indeed, the reason the claimant chose to quit ultimately stemmed from the COVID disaster. Accordingly, the claimant should continue to be qualified for benefits, and the employer's account should be protected from charge. We should therefore modify the AT decision, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, disaster, no overpayment.
I would agree with Commissioner Demerson.
Agreed.
Thank you. We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2882492, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. First, I agree that the claimant did not establish good cause for his non-appearance. As to the job separation, in the absence of testimony from the parties, we must decide whether the evidence available to AT1 supports the initial determination which disqualified the claimant. Here, the employer's response to the claim states that the claimant walked off the job and made no attempt to remedy any concerns before doing so. The claims examiner, who considered both the employer's response and the claimant's fact-finding statement, give credence to the employer. The available evidence fully supports a finding that the employer quit without good cause connected with the work. Because the disqualification is appropriate, the resulting overpayment is also appropriate. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for his non-appearance, voluntary leaving, void chargeback, and an overpayment of $2,497.
The only available evidence are the FF statements provided by the parties. The claimant provided specific information detailing that he was yelled and cursed at by a supervisor for having to use the restroom too long. The claimant was fired during the employer's outburst. The employer only provided a brief statement that the claimant quit provided by a third party. As the only specific facts available indicate the claimant was cursed and yelled at, and the only alleged offense was using the restroom, there is insufficient evidence to find misconduct. Reverse the AT, no good cause, no misconduct, void chargeback, no overpayment. In the alternative, the claimant has alleged technological issues frustrated his attempt to participate in the prior hearing. As such, I could agree to grant good cause and resubmit the case for merits testimony.
Reverse the AT, claim established good cause for AT1, resubmit.
We will resubmit this case.
Case number 2927139, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant and other employees engaged in a group chat outside of work hours to discuss pay issue. The chat was not open to the public. The employer admits that there was a pay discrepancy. However, the employer took issue with the claimant expressing skepticism about their explanation of the issue and with her complaints about a lack of pay increases. The claimant's actions did not violate the employer's policies, and the employer has not presented sufficient evidence of a specific act of misconduct. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was discharged for making unfounded allegations of fraud against the employer and her coworkers. The employer, through its messages to the claimant, had discredited the claimant's allegation of fraud and thereafter provided adequate avenues to remedy the claimant's job-related concerns. The claimant, in her response to the employer, continued to use derogatory language and berate the employer in its business practices. Since the record dictates that the claimant failed to adequately address her job-related concerns and furthermore acted in an unprofessional manner concerning the final incident leading to her separation, the claimant's conduct constituted misconduct connected with the work. Hence, we should affirm the appeal tribunal decision, misconduct, no chargeback.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case number 2933610, Commissioner Dimerson.
This case should be remanded. The employer was not asked specifically whether it had received the determination in question at its correct address, record of address. We should therefore remand the case to the appeal tribunal decision to directly ask the employer whether it received the determination at its correct address of record. And if the determination was received, the employer should also be asked when it was received.
The AT decision is correct. The employer filed a late appeal from the chargeback determination because they were unaware of the possibility of chargeback protection. There are no good cause exceptions to the timeliness rules. The determination was mailed to the employer's correct mailing address and received timely by the employer. Under the clear Statutory rules. The employer's appeal must be dismissed as late. Affirm the late employer appeal, charge the employer's account.
Reverse the AT, timely employer appeal, resubmit.
And we have not yet achieved a majority vote.
We agree with the chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll resubmit this case.
Case number 2950310, Commissioner Dimerson.
The commission should grant a a rehearing in this case. Regarding the job separation, the claimant was terminated when an investigation revealed that he had violated the employer's policy on COVID-19. The evaluation of the employer's policy, although not offered into evidence, is clearly relevant and paramount before making a decision in this case. Hence, we should conduct a rehearing to admit the employer's COVID-19 policy and to further develop the record about the investigation which led to the claimant's discharge.
The decision is correct. The employer has only provided secondhand testimony and failed to establish that the claimant violated their COVID-19 protocols. The employer has not provided sufficient evidence to find misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
We agree with the chairman.
Thank you.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2957359, Commissioner Alvarez.
This case should be reheard. It appears that the claimant's medical issues currently prevent him from working as a truck driver. However, the claimant was not questioned regarding his other work experience or other types of work he might be able to perform. As such, the case should be reheard to better develop the record.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. The claimant clearly stated at the appeal hearing that he has never been released by a doctor to return to work and that he is unable to work. Since these statements establish that the claimant is not able to work, the AT's decision is supportable. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, ability not eligible beginning November 22nd, 2020, void ability closure, and recalculate the overpayment.
Rehear.
We'll rehear the case.
Case number 2971304, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. First, I agree that the validity of claim issue should be severed. Concerning the job separation, upon the employer's store closing in Harlingen, Texas, the claimant was guaranteed a job at any of the employer's other store locations, the closest being Brownsville and McAllen. The claimant had previously worked at the Brownsville location for a year, but thereafter declined to work at the location due to her mother's illness. Since the claimant was afforded the opportunity to have continued employment, but thereafter quit based on personal reasons unrelated to the work, the claimant's separation constituted a voluntary quit without good cause connected with the work. Hence, we should modify the appeal tribunal decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response, sever the validity of claim issue.
The decision should be modified. No voluntary leaving, chargeback, and sever the validity of claim. The location of the claimant worked at closed. The employer offered to transfer the claimant to the two closest locations, which were 45 minutes and 75 minutes away. The claimant declined the transfer request because of the distance, her mother's medical issues, and her own vision issue. The claimant had not previously agreed to transfer to other locations, as the transfer would have greatly increased the claimant's commute. It was a substantial change to the hiring agreement, and the claimant had good cause to quit. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback, and sever validity of claim.
Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback, sever validity of claim.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case number 2983826, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should grant a rehearing in this case. First, I agree that the claimant had filed a timely appeal. Regarding the job separation, the record was insufficiently developed about the claimant's wages with the employer. Since this evidence is crucial to ascertain whether the claimant was making above his maximum wage demand, a rehearing is warranted. As such, we should conduct a rehearing to obtain additional evidence about the claimant's wages with the employer.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with Commissioner Demerson to rehear this case.
Read here.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 2995124, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was discharged for her loud use of profanity and offensive language to describe a coworker. While the claimant was speaking Spanish, this does not diminish the effects of her insulting and derogatory language in the workplace. About a month before the claimant's discharge, the employer's witness spoke to employees and informed them that bullying behavior would not be tolerated. Thus, the claimant was aware that her actions could result in her discharge. In the absence of any testimony from the claimant, the employer has met its burden of proving that the claimant's unacceptable comments constituted mismanagement of her position of employment. We should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision should be modified. No misconduct, chargeback, and void adequate response. The claimant was discharged for allegedly speaking negatively about a coworker. The employer presented secondhand testimony that the coworker believed that the claimant was speaking negatively about her because the claimant was speaking in Spanish, and the coworker believed she said a curse word. The employer admits that they don't know what the claimant said, and they're assuming that it was something negative because it was in Spanish. The employer's speculations are insufficient to support a finding of misconduct, and we can't assume misconduct simply because the claimant was speaking Spanish. Modify the AT, no misconduct, chargeback, and void adequate response.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
The only difference between Commissioner Demerson's vote and yours is the sever. Commissioner Demerson merely voted to adequate response without the sever.
We're okay with sever, Chair.
All right, let me just look at this for a moment. It would be appropriate not to sever in this case because the ruling is in fact disqualifying the claimant. So the adequate response ruling automatically follows from this particular ruling.
Sherry,
Yes, sir.
so for the record, my vote is misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Yes, sir.
And then I agreed with the chairman on sever.
Yes, sir.
But and after your explanation, adequate employer response seems to be appropriate here.
We can do whatever you gentlemen decide.
So help me understand then at, I guess at the initial hearing, maybe at the AT level, they qualified the claimant, they ordered a chargeback, but then imposed adequate response. I don't understand how that could have happened.
The AT imposed adequate response in error.
So wouldn't it make sense to sever it and hear that separately from the case now that I think the majority votes that the claimant's not qualified?
The recommendation was to void the adequate response ruling because it was merely an error. You're imposing adequate response based on the facts of the case. Technically, we could sever it.
That explanation makes sense. That what you just said makes sense. I'll change my vote to misconduct, no chargeback, adequate response.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Miller, I'd like to long form dissent this case.
Long form dissent, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 3002231, Commissioner Alvarez.
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant was discharged for excessive absenteeisms. On the final incident, the claimant called the employer's attendance line to report his absence because he had been exposed to COVID-19. He was nevertheless discharged. The claimant's absence was caused by a medical situation and was also a disaster related. He was discharged for reasons that did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. The employer's account should not be charged due to the disaster. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback due to disaster.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant was discharged for excessive absenteeism. Specifically, the claimant did not report his final absence in the appropriate manner. The claimant had received prior warnings and was aware that further absences could lead to further disciplinary actions. Since the term disciplinary actions can reasonably be understood as including any action which is disciplinary, the claimant knew or should have known that the final incident could lead to his discharge. As such, the claimant's actions constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, sever, adequate response.
Modify the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, sever, adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez. That was the last UI case pulled for docket 52. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 52.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 52.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 52.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 52.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you. We'll continue to docket number 1.
Case number 2712544, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision should be reversed. The claimant had restricted access to her mailbox mailbox such that she could only check it weekly. She did not receive the notice of telephone hearing packet prior to the first appeal tribunal hearing. The claimant had good cause for the non-appearance at the first appeal tribunal hearing. Reverse the AT, claimant established good cause for the non-appearance, resubmit for merits.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. Regarding good cause, the claimant elected to receive mail correspondence at an address where she had once a week limited access. Although the claimant alleged delayed receipt based on her inability to check the mail, this argument is unpersuasive. The claimant's testimony did not present any evidence of delayed delivery of the hearing packet, nor did she provide credible evidence that she failed to appear at the AT1 hearing due to circumstances beyond her control. Hence, the claimant did not have good cause for missing the AT1 hearing. Concerning the job separation, the claimant was terminated for exhibiting a pattern of unprofessionalism and lack of respect when interacting with her coworkers. The claimant was counseled for her performance and moreover was placed on a performance improvement plan to address her work-related concerns. Since the claimant continued to exhibit deficiencies in her job performance after she was adequately warned, her conduct constituted misconduct connected with the work. Therefore, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for a non-appearance, misconduct, overpayment of $3,755. Designate the employer as a party of interest.
Reverse the AT, claim established good cause for AT1, resubmit.
We will resubmit this case.
Case number 2835590, Commissioner Dimerson.
The employer should be found to have good cause for its non-appearance. The employer witness presented evidence that part of the reason for her non-appearance at the hearing was that she was the primary caregiver for her mother who had fallen, broken her hip, and undergone surgery. Between the employer's testimony and its timely petition to reopen, it is not unreasonable to conclude that caring for an ill family member contributed towards the employer's absence at the hearing. Accordingly, we should find that the employer had good cause for its non-appearance and resubmit for merits testimony.
The decision should be affirmed. The employer received the hearing notice but chose not to participate. The employer gave 2 reasons for their decision, but neither reason provided the employer with good cause. Regarding the job separation, the claimant complied with the employer's timekeeping procedures, but was not being paid correctly. She attempted to discuss her concerns with the employer. In response to the claimant's calmly explaining the issue, the employer demanded the claimant's keys. Therefore, the claimant was discharged, and as the employer has not shown misconduct, she should be qualified for benefits. Affirm the AT, no employer good cause, no misconduct chargeback.
Modify the AT. Employer did not establish good cause for AT1. Voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
I agree with the chairman. Vote.
Thank you.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 2860089, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant was receiving benefits at the time she worked for the employer and worked for less than 4 weeks. The claimant's maximum wage demand was $19.50 per hour, and the position paid a daily rate. Based on the number of hours in a regular work shift, the claimant's hourly rate would be as low as $15. Since the rate for a typical shift was below her maximum wage demand, the work was not suitable for the claimant. The claimant is entitled to benefits under Section 207.045G1 of the Act. Reverse the AT, no voluntary leaving, no overpayment.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant quit when continued work was still available because she did not want her job interfering with her unemployment benefits. Although the claimant alleged personal reasons such as lack of childcare for failure to accept available work assignments, this does not provide the claimant with good cause connected with the work to quit. Finally, a suitability of work agreement is futile. The evidence dictates that the claimant was paid above her maximum wage demand and furthermore did not meet the necessary elements under Section 207.045G1 of the Act. As such, the claimant quit for personal reasons not connected with the work. Hence, we should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, overpayment of $4,280.
Affirm the AT. Voluntary leaving, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2934014, Commissioner Dimerson.
The commission should grant a rehearing in this case. The employer stated that the claimant spent many hours at a cigar lounge where he was supposed to be at job sites. The employer also described some of the claimant's actions as lewd misconduct. Since the employer relied on video and GPS evidence to conclude that the claimant engaged in the aforementioned acts, we should conduct a rehearing to allow the employer to present its video and GPS records.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant had been given permission to perform the computer-related parts of his job duties at a remote location because of air conditioning and internet issues at the employer's location. It was not made clear to the claimant that there was a time limit on the accommodation. The claimant provided clear and credible testimony that he was still visiting plants as required and performing all his job duties. The employer admitted that there were no issues with the claimant's work performance. Additionally, regarding the employer's allegations that the claimant changed clothes in the parking lot, the claimant credibly testified that he had clean clothing underneath his work attire. As such, the employer has not shown misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 2936635, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision is not supportable. While out of the country on an approved leave of absence, civil unrest and government restriction in Nigeria frustrated the claimant's ability to safely return to work. The claimant was also exposed to COVID, which further delayed his ability to return. Due to his inability to return to work as planned, the claimant was discharged. The claimant's absence and separation were due to urgent, compelling, and necessary circumstances beyond his control. Modify the AT, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, urgent, compelling, and necessary.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant initiated the job separation when he overstayed his period of leave with the employer. Although the claimant was aware of his return to work date, he failed to adequately follow up or provide the employer with a definite date for returning to work. Though the claimant alleged good personal reasons for overstaying his leave, his failure to adequately inform the employer about his return constituted voluntary quit without good cause connected with the work. Hence, we should affirm the appeal tribunal decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Modify the AT. No voluntary leaving, no chargeback, urgent and compelling.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case number 2955943, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant filed a valid claim. As to the job separation, the claimant quit due to dissatisfaction with her supervisor. Both parties dispute the nature of the working relationship. While the claimant alleges hostility from her supervisor, the employer witness stated that he did not yell or scream at the claimant and that he had a calm demeanor. The claimant also failed to use the compliance hotline to address her issues. Because the claimant did not show that working conditions were intolerable, and because she failed to properly escalate her concerns, she quit without work-connected good cause. We should therefore modify the AT decision, valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response. In the alternative, part of the claimant's testimony indicates that she was advised to quit if her work environment caused her stress and jeopardized her health. As such, I could also agree to vote a valid claim, no voluntary leaving, no chargeback, and MVI.
Ms. Miller, I would agree with the MBI.
Modify the AT valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The majority vote is an MVI. Do you wish to dissent?
Yes, short form dissent.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to agree with the chairman's vote. Was his vote the same as mine? My initial vote?
Could you repeat your vote, please, sir?
Valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
You're correct. That matches your first vote.
Okay, I'm going to agree with the chairman's vote.
Okay. Interesting, we had the opportunity for two different majorities. The majority vote at the end of the day is valid claim, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, sir.
Case number 2961377, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The claimant failed to return to work after being given approved leave by the employer. The employer stated that there was work available for the claimant, but she declined on multiple occasions. As such, the claimant initiated the job separation. Since the claimant did not establish working conditions were intolerable, her job separation amounts to a voluntary quit without work-connected good cause. We should therefore reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
The decision should be modified. No misconduct, bill reimburse an employer. The claimant was separated when she stopped working due to having COVID-19, while the employer indicated that the claimant failed to return to work after being sick. The employer's response also indicated that the claimant was permanently laid off. As such, the greater weight of the evidence indicates that the claimant was separated due to having COVID-19. Modify the 18, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
Reverse the AT, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 2977025, Commissioner Dimerson.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant was discharged for using unnecessary force against an inmate. An employer witness who viewed a video of the incident stated that the claimant threw the inmate onto the concrete floor, resulting in the inmate's head hitting the ground. In addition, the claimant stated that he permanently surrendered his license to work in law enforcement after speaking with the district attorney's office regarding his options and the plea deal available. Given the severity of the claimant's actions, he was discharged for work-connected misconduct. We should therefore modify the AT decision, misconduct, tax governmental account, sever adequate response. In the alternative, if my fellow commissioners do not agree, I would also support a rehearing in this case to allow the employer to submit its video footage of the final incident.
The AT decision should be reversed. The claimant provided sworn firsthand testimony denying the allegations that he used excessive force against an inmate. The employer merely presented secondhand hearsay testimony regarding the alleged incident and also failed to provide video footage, which is claimed to have had in its possession. Under these circumstances, the employer failed to carry its burden of proving that the claimant was guilty of misconduct by a preponderance of the evidence. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, tax governmental, void adequate response.
Modify the AT, misconduct, text governmental employer, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez.
Case number 3003803, Commissioner Alvarez.
During the appeal period, the claimant contacted TWC about and was misinformed regarding his need to file an appeal. Since the claimant received misinformation, his appeal should be deemed timely. Regarding the separation, the claimant was discharged after signing up for product training courses offered by the competitor. The product was sold by both the employer and the competitor. The employer questioned the claimant if he was going to work for the competitor, and the claimant informed them that he could not do so until after his training and had not made a decision about working for the competitor. The claimant was discharged the next day for working for a competitor. In accordance with appeal number 826-CA-77, as the claimant had not yet worked for the employer or even expressed that he was planning to do so, the claimant has not committed misconduct. Reverse the AT, timely appeal, no misconduct, chargeback, no overpayment.
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. First, I do not dispute that the claimant filed a timely appeal. As to the job separation, the claimant was engaged in a 45-day training program with one of the employer's competitors. Because this action violated the claimant's employment contract and was not in the employer's best interest, the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. As the disqualification is appropriate, the resulting overpayment is also appropriate. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant filed a timely appeal, misconduct, no chargeback, an overpayment of $7,056.
Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, misconduct, no chargeback, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Alvarez. And that was the last pulled case on docket 1. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 1.
I move to accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 1.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 1.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 1.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir. And we'll continue to docket 2.
Case number 2694255, Commissioner Alvarez.
The decision regarding good cause is not supportable. The claimant made a good faith effort to participate in the hearing and registered well in advance. Unfortunately, she simply made an error when she was registering her phone number and was off by 1 digit. The claimant's number had recently changed due to a domestic violence issue. As the claimant had only recently been using this number, the claimant's simple error is understandable. Under these circumstances, the claimant established good cause for not taking part in the hearing, and the cause correction and the case should be resubmitted for merits.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. Regarding good cause, the claimant registered for the hearing using the wrong telephone number and did not attempt to verify it with TWC until after the hearing was scheduled to begin. These were circumstances that were within the claimant's power to control. Therefore, she did not have good cause for a non-appearance. As to the job separation, the available record supports a finding that the claimant was discharged for causing a serious concern for employee and patient safety. Such activity constituted work-connected misconduct. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for a non-appearance misconduct.
Reverse the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, resubmit.
We will resubmit the case.
Case number 2710111, Commissioner Alvarez.
The claimant was terminated for refusing to submit a drug testing. The evidence establishes the claimant did submit to testing, but was unable to produce enough urine. The claimant drank additional water, and there was no evidence that the claimant willfully withheld her urine. The claimant provided plausible testimony that her inability to produce a sufficient sample was in part attributable to the presence of a male employee who was monitoring her from outside the bathroom stall, and her explanation was further bolstered by a statement from her doctor. The claimant offered to take another test at her own expense, but was not permitted to do so. In the absence of any evidence willful intent to avoid the employer's drug testing, the claimant's mere inability to produce enough urine on command did not constitute mismanagement of her position of employment. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant was directed to take a drug test and was unable to provide a sample sufficient to satisfy the employer's requirement. Both parties agreed that there was a medical note explaining why the claimant could not provide the required sample. As such, the claimant should be qualified for benefits and the employer's account should remain protected under a medical separation analysis. We should therefore modify the AT decision, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
I would agree to that, to the MBI.
We have a unanimous decision.
Case number 2970218, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The claimant was terminated when she failed to adequately perform the essential functions of her job. Although the claimant met the employer's job expectations for several years, in the final year leading to the separation, she consistently failed to meet the employer's job demands, even though her job duties had not substantially increased. Despite the employer providing the claimant with various warnings and individualized assistance prior to her separation, her performance did not improve. Since the claimant had once met the employer's job expectations, but thereafter repeatedly failed to meet the employer's standards, her actions constituted misconduct connected with the work. As such, we should reverse the appeal tribunal decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged by the employer because they were unsatisfied with her performance. The claimant's performance had been satisfactory for years until a coworker left, and the employer then distributed more cases for the claimant to complete. As a result of the increased workload, the claimant was unable to complete cases to the employer's standards. The change in the claimant's performance was caused by factors beyond her control, and her unsatisfactory performance did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
A short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson.
Case number 2998089, Commissioner Dimerson.
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. The employer's witness testified that the claimant was discharged for being argumentative and insubordinate when asked to perform job tasks. The claimant had been warned about this behavior. In the absence of testimony from the claimant, the employer has provided sufficient evidence to establish that the claimant mismanaged his position of employment. Accordingly, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision is supportable. While the claimant did not participate in the AT hearing, the employer provided only generalized evidence as to the claimant's alleged misconduct. The employer has failed to provide credible or persuasive evidence sufficient to support a finding that he committed misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
A short form dissent.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Dimerson. And that was the last pulled UI case on docket 2. You should have received the UI short form dissent list for docket 2.
I'm going to accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 2.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I am dissenting as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 2.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for cases on which I'm dissenting as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 2.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. We'll take a short recess.
Yeah.
All right, we're back with agenda item 8, AEL Advisory Committee Report 2021 Annual Recommendations.
Good morning, Chair Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Dimerson, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Mahalia Baldini with Adult Education and Literacy Workforce Development Division. Texas Labor Code 315.005 requires TWC to establish an Adult Education and Literacy Advisory Committee, which is charged with reporting to the commission annually and advising the commission on various aspects related to the enhancement of adult education in Texas. In the 2020 report, the committee made 3 recommendations, and I'm happy to report that TWC has made some great progress on each of these. First, with regards to the AEL statewide brand, TWC rolled out a social media marketing campaign called Move Ahead with Adult Ed and worked with the Texas Education Agency to promote high school equivalency voucher programs. Secondly, to support employer engagement, the commission approved 2 initiatives for a total of $1.7 million, specifically to support building work-based programs and pre-apprenticeship bridge to construction trades programs. And thirdly, on the topic of serving special populations in Texas through interagency coordination, the commission also approved a $750,000 initiative to build integrated and training programs in correctional facilities with an interagency contract with Wyndham School District, which would support both pre and post-release services to individuals who are within 2 years of their release. TWC also continues to collaborate with other agencies. Here with us today is an advisory member who, during his 4 years of committed time with the committee, has provided great insight into TWC and its workforce partners and how we can enhance adult education and literacy. With that, I'd first like to thank our presiding officer, Mr. Donald Tracy with Austin Community College, for his work on the committee and for making himself available today to present this year's recommendations. Don.
Thank you. Well, for the record, my name is Donald Tracy, and I serve as the Director of Corporate and Community Education for Austin Community College, and I'm the outgoing presiding officer for the AEL Advisory Committee. I appreciate the opportunity to come this morning and present our recommendations to you. But first, I just want to tell you what a privilege it's been over the last 4 years serving on this committee and being a part of this conversation. What we do here in the state of Texas to support our adults in gaining basic skills and vocational skills to ready them for the workforce is second to none. And it's a tremendous asset for us to be able to leverage these programs and engage with special populations and underserved folks in order to help them to enter the workforce and be successful. So this has been a great privilege for me to be able to be a part of it. So I appreciate that. I want to start our recommendations with just a little bit of a background statement. On last year, we had made some recommendations around communications and collaboration and coordination across the AEL system, communicating AEL opportunities more broadly. And of course, there was a tremendous marketing campaign that occurred over this last year. And then when we talk about collaboration, we're talking about how do we connect our AEL providers with employers and identify ways to develop pre-apprenticeship programs and things like that. And then coordinating support for these special populations. So those were our basic recommendations last year, and we wanted to build upon those and extend those this year. Those are themes that I suspect will come up year after year after year. The more that we can communicate the opportunities of adult ed and literacy programming out there, the better. It increases access. The more that we can collaborate with our employers to develop pre-employment and also employer-based training, work-based learning, the better. The more that we can coordinate across agencies, the more that we can coordinate with local service providers, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and others, the better. So I think those themes are probably going to still come up. And so this year, as we went through our different meetings and heard from different groups around we wanted to identify some very specific recommendations around communication, around coordination and collaboration. So from the standpoint of communication, in looking at expanding access and supporting in identifying support organizations, the need really is for individuals to be stable while they're in these adult ed and literacy programs in the community. So how do we do that? Individuals may have issues with childcare or transportation or other things. Life happens at 100 miles an hour to people every day. And so, a big part of success for individuals that are participating in adult ed and literacy programming is having a stable foundation to stand on while they're in those programs. And so for us, it was important to really focus on how we can connect some of these service organizations together at the local level, at the hyper-local level, and provide those supports so that there's some stability. And that's going to be an important piece. The second thing, when we start talking about coordination, it's really about enhancing career readiness. And I just want to say as a side note, the last 2 years have been a tremendous challenge for our providers, for our students, for our employers. And when we start talking about career readiness, one of the things that came crashing through to the front for all of us was digital literacy. As we had to go virtual with our learning, as we had to go virtual in our workplaces, individuals' access to and ability to use digital technology became a critical issue. Many people don't have those basic skills. And so this year, specifically, we're suggesting that as we're coordinating with employers, that we need to identify those pre-employment digital literacy skills that are going to be important and that we can help support developing. These are things that happen pre-certificate, right? Just to get through a certificate program, you might need to know how to use a computer and have access to the computer. It's hugely important. And so we had a specific recommendation around that. And then the third area, when we talk about coordination, and we've had a few conversations along the way, I think Commissioner Alvarez, about this particular one. One of the recommendations that we have in supporting those that are incarcerated and getting ready to return to our communities is a tri-agency group that would include TWC, Health and Human Services Commission, right? And Texas Department of Criminal Justice, in looking at how can we really support those individuals that are coming back into our community. And so those were some specific things that we wanted to bring to the front this year that sort of extend the communication, the collaboration, and the coordination. Okay, we wanted to make sure that individuals are stable while they're taking courses with us. We wanted people to be better prepared for the modern workforce with digital literacy skills. And we think that there's a real opportunity for us with some of the special populations. They are our future workforce. Special populations, particularly those that are coming back from incarceration, and a tri-agency effort, sort of like we've had with TWC and TEA and the coordinating board to look at higher education in general. Same sort of thing for our returning citizens. And then I'll leave it with a couple of final little recommendations that we had. As we're figuring out what this new world is going to look like, and as we are living with integrated digital technologies in our learning environments, in our workplaces, we think it's important that those learning platforms that adults are connected to are culturally relevant and are designed for adults, not just kids. So that was another recommendation, as we look at those learning platforms being more culturally relevant and designed for adults. And then the last piece, and we saw this in our work at the college, as we pushed everything online, our instructors had as many issues with digital literacy and digital capability as our students did. And so we're suggesting that there also be some background work to support individuals who are delivering training. So that's our recommendations for this year, and would appreciate any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Chairman, I'd just like to thank Mahalia and your team. I'd also like to acknowledge the great work under Don Tracy as serving as chair of the committee. and all your members for your commitment, hard work, and expertise to improve the quality of life and effectiveness of our AEL program. So thank you. Please convey that to the other members of your committee.
Yeah, I too want to thank you, Don, for your work here, not only with AEL Advisory Committee, but with your work with all of our TWC programs and the like, and how you, good job. These are good recommendations. I was very interested in hearing about the collaboration and the communication piece, especially with the Department of Criminal Justice and HHS in our agency. Kind of we already have a tri-agency initiative that's there, but pulling agencies together like that and collaborating is very, very important. And so I commend you on even looking forward to do that work in that area.
Yeah, I appreciate the way you blend services. I mean, it's awesome. It's here in the report that you guys have given us, how you guys are, we're not only working with our state agencies, but the federal agencies as well. So thank you for that.
Ms. Baldini, I have long wanted to have Mr. Tracy under oath as a witness. I have several questions that
Can I
I need to
leave?
get to the bottom of. Unfortunately, he did such a great job as presiding officer. He's answered all the questions. Donald, thank you so much for everything that you've done. Tracy Berry too. I mean, just out. I always say the same thing about the volunteers. I will say the same. I guess it's a dad joke now. Every time I say that the hours are great and the pay's better, right? And without volunteers, this place does not accomplish nearly all the things that we're able to accomplish. So thank you so very much for the things that you're doing, and not just with AEL and not just at TWC, but in the community at large. ACC is such a large presence, and there's so many different things that you're doing. And I know that you're working on several of those things. I think that the partnerships with the employers that you've highlighted and the way people can train for new jobs becomes increasingly critical in the world. We tend to think of the pandemic as having a great effect on the world. It has, but it's going to be very short term in the broad history of the world. What's going to have a much more profound impact are the advances in technology that we've seen throughout the pandemic, and how those will alter how we learn, how we work, where we learn. And we're going to continue to learn things about those. And so I think it's nice that our adult education and literacy group is really already focusing on those things and lets us be ahead of that. I think that there's no possible way that reskilling and upskilling don't become absolutely critical for Texas and for this agency as people really try to get those middle skills jobs. They're going to pay them a lot more money and put their families in a lot better financial position. And our ability to continue to train people to take these available high paying, high demand jobs, I think becomes absolutely critical for us. And so the work that you put into this report and the work that you guys have done kind of repeatedly over the last 3, 4, 5, 10 years, I think have become the foundation for some really successful things that TWC has done and is going to do with regard to helping people get that better job, put their family in a better economic position, and lift up communities by helping families find the success that they're doing. So Donald, as always, thank you. I know I'll see you again in all of our many ventures. I always do, but I just really appreciate the willingness of volunteers to continue to do this and the amount of effort and energy that you guys bring to the table. It really helps all of us. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, the impact that you all have on people's lives is just amazing. The fact that you continue to focus on those dislocated workers, or like Chairman said, upskilling, reskilling. And then, something that I'm very dear and passionate about is those individuals that have been incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, or about to be released. It's just great work that you all are doing. So thank you again for the great work that you continue to do, especially with this population.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Let's move then to agenda item 9. This is chapter 804, JET proposed rules, publication for public comment.
Commissioners, before you today for your consideration for approval are proposed rule amendments to Chapter 804, Jobs and Education for Texans. In an open meeting on October 19th, 2021, the Commission approved a related policy concept and directed staff to draft the proposed rule amendments that are before you today. Staff has also posted the policy concept for 3 weeks to solicit input from the local workforce development boards. No comments have been received. Chapter 804 rules provide the establishment and operational procedures of the JET grant program. The proposed rules as presented today would expand participant eligibility to include the addition of charter schools, the Wyndham School District, and public state colleges. Staff recommends these proposed rules be published in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. If this action is approved by the commission, staff also requests the ability to make minor, non-substantive changes to the document in order to comply with the publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the proposed rule to the Texas Register for public comment.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. This is agenda item 10, chapter 800, sick and family leave pool, proposed rules publication for public comment.
Lo, are you on? Are you on? Is your mic on?
It is now. Should I repeat?
I was
that?
just trying to save Les a walk. I saw his frustration. He made the face.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Lo.
I'm Lowell Kegg, the Director of the Division of Business Operations. Commissioners, before you today for your consideration for approval are proposed rule amendments to Chapter 800 General Administration. In an open meeting on November 2nd, 2021, the commission approved related policy concept and directed staff to draft the proposed rule amendments that are before you today. Senate Bill 248 from the 73rd Texas Legislature added Texas Government Code sections 661.001 through 008, which established the sick leave pool. The sick leave pool provides eligible employees with additional paid sick leave in documented cases of a catastrophic illness or injury to the employee or the employee's immediate family member. House Bill 2063 from the 87th Texas Legislature added Texas Government Code sections 661.021 through 028, which established the family leave pool. The family leave pool provides eligible employees with the ability to apply for leave time and more flexibility in bonding with and caring for children during a child's first year following birth, adoption, or foster placement, or caring for a seriously ill family member of the employee, including pandemic-related illnesses or complications caused by a pandemic. Both bills require TWC to adopt rules and prescribe procedures relating to the operation of its sick and family leave pools. Staff seeks direction on submitting these proposed rules for publication in the Texas Register for a 30-day public comment period. If so directed, staff also requests the ability to make minor non-substantive changes to the document in order to comply with the publication requirements of the Texas Register and the Office of the Secretary of State. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Comments or questions?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the proposed amendments to 40 Texas Administrative Code Chapter 800, Subchapter D, Employee Benefits for publication in the Texas Register and public comment as recommended by staff.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is agenda item 11, pledges for board contract year 2021, 2022 child care matching funds.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Travis Weaver, Workforce Development Division. The Texas Workforce Commission allocates federal funding for child care services for the Child Care and Development Fund to local workforce development areas. For a portion of the CCDF funding, local workforce development boards are required to secure and submit local matching funds to TWC in accordance with federal regulations and TWC Chapter 809 Child Care Services Rules and TWC Chapter 800 General Administration Rules. Boards submit annual local pledges from private and public entities to secure federal child care funds pursuant to 809-17 and to maximize resources for child care needs in the community. Support documents include 65 board contract year BCY 22 match agreements from 15 boards, which include Alamo, Cameron County, Central Texas, Concho Valley, Dallas County, Gulf Coast, Lower Rio, North Central, Central Texas, Coastal Bend, Dallas County, I already said Dallas County, Golden Crescent, Lower Rio, Panhandle, Rural Cap, South Plains, South Texas, and West Central. Boards have secured 72.19% of the statewide child care local match target for BCY 22 compared to 72.87% for BC 21 during the same time period, with 19 boards securing at least 50% of their target and 9 boards securing their BCY 22 local match target. A couple items to note. We do want to point out that Deep East Texas has secured 2 new provider pledge partners for BCY 22 in Jasper ISD and Tanaha ISD, and the city of Dallas has increased their pledge from by $375,000 for Workforce Greater Dallas. Today, staff seeks direction on accepting childcare pledges for donations, transfers, and certifications of expense for BCY 22 in the amount of $21,341,559. This concludes my comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
And none here, Chairman.
None here.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we accept child care match in the amount of $21,341,559 for board contract year 2022.
A second.
Good.
All right, we're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's move to agenda item 13, CCDBG, COVID-19 federal funding, third tranche of new initiatives, a modification.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Reagan Miller with the Child Care and Early Learning Division. This morning for your consideration are several modifications to the 2022 Child Care Relief Funds, which was initially approved in the third tranche discussion paper. We have 3 issues that we're seeking your additional direction on. First, on adding a requirement for providers applying for the 2022 relief funds to commit to remaining open through May 2023. We're making a significant investment, over $2.4 billion, and these funds should be able to assist child care providers in supporting their ongoing operating costs, allowing them to remain open. Secondly, we're seeking your direction on modifying the payment cycle and moving from 2 payments to 4 quarterly payments. Prior to each payment being authorized, TWC staff will review childcare regulation data to confirm that providers remained open and operational and that they have submitted their required TWC reports. And finally, we're seeking your direction on dedicating up to $20 million in stimulus funding to support the monitoring and oversight of the $2.45 billion being awarded in relief funding. We will establish a dedicated child care relief fund hotline, and we will plan to monitor approximately 25% of all child care relief fund awardees. We believe that these additional parameters will help to provide greater accountability and ensure that this significant investment of funds are expended appropriately. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I believe.
We have a public commenter, Commissioners. We'll bring Reagan back up for any commentary or questions.
Commissioners, we have Brooks Jones. Mr. Jones, if you could unmute yourself and introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Brooks Jones. I'm with Christian Preschool Centers. We operate in South Plains and Panhandle regions. I'm excited about this. This is going to be very tremendous and helpful for our industry. But we are concerned with the 3 quarterly and how they'll be done. We were wondering though if one of the things, if we apply for it and then let's say we get the money in December, potentially not being able to expense that money, or are we using it more as a reimbursement? If it's done more as a reimbursement, the childcare industry is still having to front all the money and then being reimbursed. And so we'd like to see that happen also, of course, over 2 years. So for 2022 and 2023, allowing us to have some flexibility so we're not having to pay taxes on it or go through that. Maybe we're going to get the money late December, not able to expense it, or if we're doing a reimbursement that changes the way childcare providers might do it. So I'm hoping this is not done more as a reimbursement, more as how we plan on doing it and then get the funds. But that's kind of what we're looking at, what I'm seeing as a potential negative for our industry. And so that's number 13. I didn't get to write number 14, but number 14, I would like to say is we'd like to have it where the TWC mandates that a childcare professional be on the workforce boards. Because like in South Plains, there's not anybody on our board that's actually a professional in childcare, either an owner or an administrator. I think that would be a nice addition requirement for local workforce boards. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Reagan, it's yours.
So those are all of my remarks this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions or comments?
Well, after hearing him, is there a way we could change the schedule?
So the way the federal law works, we are instructed to provide these funds in advance of a provider incurring those costs. So they would not be getting reimbursed after the fact. We would be paying them on a quarterly basis, and then they could use those funds, have those in the bank to be able to pay for costs that they would incur. So I think that the way the federal law was structured helps address that concern about reimbursements. The 2.45 billion, again, if we make that available over a quarterly period, it doesn't mean that they have to expend those funds within that quarter. So they would have some flexibility in how they would administer those program by program.
Thank you, Reagan.
I just continue to appreciate the way that you guys are implementing and processing this large amount of money out in this very important area. So thanks for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right. Any further comments or questions? Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the following modifications to the methodology and plan for distribution of ARPA stabilization grant funds for the 2022 Child Care Relief Funds as recommended by staff. Adding a requirement that providers must commit to the remaining open through May 2023, modify the payment cycle and issuing 4 quarterly payments, and dedicating up to $20 million for monitoring and oversight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this is agenda item 14, board nominations.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Cherie Dudley with the Workforce Development Division. For your consideration this morning, we have Workforce Board nominations for Alamo, Capital Area, Concho Valley, East Texas, North Central Texas, and Rural Capital Area. Staff seeks direction on the presented nominees, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions?
Just nice to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I had the pleasure of seeing Cherie present to us. This is the first time, or have I missed a meeting? First time?
First time.
So there may be a lot of questions that we might have for you. But
Demerson
not
will
at this
ask them.
time, not at this time. So,
So you're going to save your questions?
let's not save them for later.
I'm going to ask mine. Just kidding. Thank you very much. Is there no further questions? Is there a motion?
Yes, Chairman, I move to approve the board nominees for Alamo, Capital Area, Concho Valley, East Texas, North Central Texas, and Rural Capital Area.
Thank you.
All right, hadn't been second yet. Second the motion.
Well, I was going to second it if you weren't going to. We're unanimous.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I'm still not showing anything on agenda item 15. I'm showing that we're not having a legislative report today, which brings us to the executive director's report, the highlight of every commission meeting.
I know y'all wait for it. Y'all wait for it. I'll be sending in reports when I'm not attending the meetings in the future. I did have one thing I wanted to share with the commission, and that is that our unemployment insurance staff, led by Terry Warren, met with U.S. Digital Services and the Department of Labor. They were interested in studying how we handle the disaster unemployment assistance program. And U.S. Digital Services heard from DOL and other states that Texas was the leader when it came to the DOA program. And they were very impressed with the work that we've done in those programs, and is going to try to take that, the information that we provided them, and maybe replicate it for other states to be able to use. So I'm very pleased with the UI staff, despite everything else that they're doing, that they get one informally recognized. It's not a formal recognition or anything, but that's why I wanted to do it, by our peers as well as DOL for our outstanding service, their outstanding service with regard to managing the DUA programs. So hopefully we won't have too many disasters where we have to take advantage of that, but when we do, we'll handle it. And that's all I really had to report.
All right, any other questions or comments for Ed?
None here, Chairman.
None here.
Is there any other order of business come for the commission today?
Just like to wish everyone Happy New Year.
Chairman, I wanted to point out the intern we just hired, and so I wanted to point out Nick Garrett that's in the audience. He's an intern on our side, on our team here. I think a student at Southwest Texas State in a marketing major, and glad to have him on board.
Welcome
All right,
aboard.
I second Commissioner Alvarez's wish for Happy New Year, and I second Commissioner Demerson's welcome today.
Mhm.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
It's been
Second.
moved- It's been moved, seconded to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you.